What's up, Esoteric family? We got a really good one today. This esoteric video breakdown was requested, and once I started to decode it, I was amazed at the depth that this story covers. And by the way, if you guys have any requests, please leave in the comments, and maybe I'll do a video for you. But no matter what, I will always respond. So every video I make takes its own shape and form. I don't script these videos. The only thing I read is the scriptures themselves so I can say them word for word. The rest is me having a normal conversation. And most of the time, I think it's like me having a conversation with my uncle because we talk about this stuff all the time. So in saying that, I think the best way for me to break this story down is to first explain the characters and tell you what they mean metaphysically, and then read the text and break down the scriptures as I go. So I won't read every scripture for the sake of time, but I will highlight and comment on the most important ones so you understand the story and the hidden meaning also. All right, so today's story, we're going to be talking about King Nebuchadnezzar and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego. This story is taken from Daniel 3, verses 1 through 30. And I definitely would encourage you to read the whole story for yourself. So first off, the story takes place in Babylon. What you must understand is that every time a city is mentioned in the Bible, it represents a state of consciousness. And in this particular text, Babylon represents a state of confusion, limitation, fear. So this story is taking place in a state of confusion. Now, the main antagonist in the story is King Nebuchadnezzar. He represents your ego, or the part of you that needs to control everything, the part of you that only believes in what you can see, the part that wants to keep you in fear, worry, and frustration. It's the worldly part of you. Now, all the people in the story, the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, etc., they represent your thoughts. And finally, the three heroes of the story, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego, represent the three aspects of man. They represent you. Shadrach represents meekness. He signifies the indwelling of Christ as love, mercy, goodness, and the channel of all power of wisdom. He represents the intellect, or the mind. Philippians 2:5, let the mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Now, Meshach, he represents love. Love is the guest and indwelling place of the Almighty. Love is the attracting power of the universe. Love is what draws to us all good. Love is the physical manifestation of the qualities of God. So Meshach represents the body. So 1 Corinthians 3:16, know ye not that you are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. And finally, Abed-Nego, he represents light and understanding. He represents wisdom, and he is the interpreter of God. He represents the essence of man that connects with God for help and guidance. This is the soul, or the heart. Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So these three represent mind, body, and heart. They represent the mental, spiritual, and physical planes. The Holy Trinity, 3 in 1 and 1 holding 3. They represent us. And when the three move together in balance, the overman appears, the Christ from above. I told you, this is gonna get deep. Okay, so now we got the characters established and what they represent in the story. Now let's get into the story, and I'll break it down as I read. So first we want to start with the first 6 chapters, because this is the base of the story. So Daniel 3, chapter 1. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold whose height was 3 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king set to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the province to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors, captains, judges, treasurers, counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the province were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried out, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and language, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And whosoever falleth not down and worship shall this same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace." Okay, so the main point you need to understand is that the king, your controlling ego, is the ruler of Babylon, a state of confusion. So he then gathers all your thoughts together, the princes, the judges, etc., and he tells them, the only thing we can rely on is the physical world, your job, another person, drugs, supplements, etc., the golden image. The king, your ego, then says, when we have fear, or as in the story, when you hear the music, all thoughts will rely on what we see, the false god. And if you do not bow down, I will kill you. Okay, I'm just going to give you the gist of verses 8 through 12. So basically, some of the officials, your thoughts, went to the king, your ego, and they say to him, "Almighty king, did you not say that when we hear the music or when we have problems or faced with fears, that we are to bow down and worship?" Well, there are 3 who not obeying. So what's up with that? Okay, so now we're going to pick up the text, Daniel 3:13 through 15. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if you be ready, that at the time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, that you fall down and worship the image that I have made, well. But if you worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is it that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?" So the king, your ego, is mad. So he calls the threefold man, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego, mind, heart, and body, to him. And he says, "Why aren't you following orders? I'm going to give you one more chance. And when you hear the music, have fear. You must bow down. Rely on the physical, or I'm going to throw you in the fire." Now, the music in the story represents fear or minor problems, but the fire represents major problems. Problems so big, you can't figure them out with your own understanding, like having a weapon to your head, or like someone trying to violate you, or like your house burning down, or your spouse cheating and leaving you with nothing, or running out of money with children to feed. This is the fire. The king is threatening the heroes, and he's going to throw them in a bigger realm of problems. So let us read more. Let's see what happens. Daniel 3:16 through 18. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods nor worship thy golden image which thou hast set up." Wow. Now, that right there gives me goosebumps. They are telling the king, if the infinite God saves us or not, That's his prerogative. But no matter what, we will not rely on the physical or bow down to the false gods. They knew that there was only one true God. Now, that's some dedication. It's one thing to say, I'll rely on God when things are fine. But when you have a weapon to you and you say, whether or not you use it, I will trust in God. When someone tries to do things to you and you hold firm and say to yourself, whether they go through it or not, I'm going to trust in God. When you say to yourself, if I have food tonight or not, I will trust in God. This is what they were saying to the controlling ego, the king. Do what you will, but I will hold my faith. Now, most can't get to this level of faith and consciousness because most identify with your physical body. In this story, they knew that who they were transcended any physical harm that could happen to them. Now, let's continue. Daniel 3:19 through 23. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage means facial expression. The form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Now, not only was the fire, your intense problems, amplified, now they were bound. That means you cannot escape. You can't run from that weapon. You can't break loose from the person holding you down. There's no way to get food in sight. There is no physical way out of this. And the fire was so big, it killed the guards that threw you in. So no other thoughts could get near this situation. This is intense. All right, so let's read on. 3:24 through 26. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished. That word means surprised. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was surprised and rose up in haste. And he spake and said unto his counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to him, the king, true, O king. He answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego came forth of the midst of the fire. Goosebumps again. These verses are describing to you that when you stay in line with divine mind, even in the midst of your worst situations, that the Christ consciousness comes down and protects and unbinds you. The Christ comes and protects you and frees you. That person with the weapon just turns and walks away. That person holding you down has a change of heart and they just can't do it. The community comes together and collects money so you and your children can have a meal and get a hotel. That is beyond powerful. Okay, so let's finish up. 27 through 30. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair on their heads singed, neither were their coats changed, nor smell of fire passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants and trusted him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own. Uh-oh, I lost my place. Sorry. Therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-Nego in the province of Babylon. Now, seeing for themselves the power of Christ consciousness, the king, or the ego, and all the other thoughts now submits, and they realize their error in thinking. And because of this, the total body becomes aligned with the Most High. Wow. What a powerful story. I'm sorry it went a little bit long, but it had to be told this way so that you could get the full depth on how powerful this story is. This is a story about what happens inside of you every day. This is one of the most powerful stories in prayer, faith, and alignment. The moral of the story is that anytime you rely on outside the divine in yourself is a false god. It's a story of overcoming fear with complete faith in God. In every temptation, big or small, the ego is tempting you to bow down and worship the false gods. And these false gods come in all forms: your status, your position, money, drugs, alcohol, influence, etc. And this story illustrates how this happens, but it also shows what happens if you do not give in to the false gods. Isaiah 43:2 says, "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee." Now, doesn't that make more sense? And this is why one of the main things I keep repeating in almost every video is, the Bible is not a history book. It is a book on consciousness. So anyway, I hope you got a ton out of this story as I did when I broke it down. If you enjoyed this esoteric breakdown, please share this video, as we're still trying to grow this channel. And thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you again.